What's up, everybody? I'm Papa Disaster. Michael. We're just gonna go with Michael. Papa Disaster's dead or Michael's dead. One of the two. Fuck. So we're gonna do this raw. I'm gonna post these to my Papa Disaster, and it's up to you to decide whether it's the truth or not. So, my wife and I got married on February 22nd, 2022, as close as we could to 2:22 p.m. on a beach in the Keys.
On Pier 22.
It was not Pier 22.
Section 22.
It was section. What is crazy was there on the pier post that were along this beachfront was 2 all the way down. It was crazy. We didn't notice that until after we had got back up. We had met. There was a Facebook post. We had met. I'm going to chop this up a little bit, but roughly we had met through Facebook, and then we did go to high school together, and then after that it was some kind of weird connection, and we're just gonna skip ahead.
Awesome.
There's a fart. Gotta leave it in. It's the truth. We'll get to that later. Has to do with Russell Brand and his little crow on the beginning of his podcast or YouTube channel. Give it a little toot, little fart. And then ever since I realized that, it's like everything in this whatever realm we are in, that little fart that comes, little toot that comes, means that I'm on the right track. Again, totally up to you to decide whether this is my mind being fictional. It's fictional, right? Sci-fi-ish. I gotta watch this just to see how bad this goes. What this says. And how long that was. Oh no, it's still going. Okay. Fair enough. This is great. So, it was a dark and clear night. If you made it this far, congratulations. So we were traveling back and forth to DC. Man, I really got to start with we were in a car accident. I rolled a vehicle, and then everything in my life changed. She has epilepsy and dies all the time. So that I think they were just making me catch up. They were making me catch up to her timeline. And when I say they and them, I just remain, the men in black, the ones that really run the show. Those that do not get spoke of, and when you do, you get disappeared. Go to Disaster News and watch the last video that I made before all this shit went down. Again, totally up to you to decide. Now, what I do recall, thinking back after this accident, is that I've had a strange life to begin with. Very strange life. And part of it, I died in a swimming pool when I was 8 years old. I saw that flashlight. I do remember that. And then I woke up in the back of an ambulance. And then I woke up again in the hospital, in a bed, people standing there. Very strange. It's a very strange memory that I have. And then we'll skip ahead. Just years of being like caged like an animal, and beaten, tormented. Those are my memories. That's my childhood. And there are a couple good memories. There's just few far in between. Didn't really start having memories until I was memories I like to recall until I was like 15 or 16. I had ran away from my dad's house and rode a bicycle from where our hometown is to Cheyenne, Wyoming. It's about 1,300 miles, something like that, by myself. And it was, I remember bits and pieces of that journey. And then that was the first time I had drug use, methamphetamine, cocaine, and LSD. And then didn't have any after that. It was like a big span of high school a few times here and there, but nothing that was ever anything to talk about. So after high school, I remember being in jail I went to jail for like 21 days. 6 days was over Christmas of my senior year, and then 15 days after. As soon as after, I didn't get to graduate. As far as like walking across the stage, still again just craziness of the punishment of this whole life of mine. You are not helping at all with. I don't even know how loud that's gonna be. Probably just the point of not talking about it. Absolutely, probably just not the time. Those moments, they don't have to be sad. I'm not trying to. Again, I'm leaving all this in. I'm not. This is how
where
we're
the
going.
best parts come from.
So, just go with shitty childhood. We'll get into more details of that later. But right now, all of these things in my life have led up to this moment. Talking to people about their ayahuasca experiences, talking to people about their DMT experiences, their mushroom experiences, and that flash, the rocket blast that they have. My wife and her epilepsy introduced me to what that was. And I believe part of this is going to lead me down a road to some kind of discovery in a scientific way for Neuralink, for space travel, for the general population, for convicts, for soldiers. I feel that's the path. But everything in my life has led me up to this moment to make me get to this point. When I saw my wife's first seizure, talk about terrified. I mean, if you've never seen somebody have a seizure, you don't want to. I mean, it's like watching someone die right in front of you. And after listening to people talk about their experiences with ayahuasca, the research they did on patients they had injected DMT into, they would blast off, and then all of a sudden they'd be someplace. Now, some of those stories they talk about, they'd blast off and then they were sober, just smoking DMT or taking DMT. It's not like you were high, euphoric. You might be euphoric, but you weren't high. It's like it wasn't anything like that. You were all of a sudden in a new place, a new realm, a new multiverse, a new dimension. And some people would come out and they would say, "Oh my God, that was more real than here. Everything there was more real than what I experienced here." Now let's think about that for a second. What was there under the influence of DMT from the pineal gland was more real than when you were here, where you started out at. That makes me think. That makes me think a lot. How many times have I died? How many times have I seen that bright light? What is actually wrong with my memory? There's something going on with this. Now, when we explore it, I got shut down. No one's going to tell me any different. My disaster news, I was all over this. I was knee deep in it, and I did a due diligence on research. Maybe not because I'm not college educated or very studious in a way that might be understood by somebody that is very studious and very anal about all their details. I find things quickly and try to make that connection as quick as I can, and then try to find the other things that give that credence, which does sound a lot like studying, doesn't it? All this time, who knew? So, with that, I had found a lot of these studies, and a lot of these studies pointed towards the pineal gland, and then looking at historical carvings that they're uncovering at like Göbekli Tepe, they're holding that pineal gland, they're holding that pine cone. Egyptians holding that pine cone. Then you get into the books of the magic, and the Book of the Dead. The Japanese have a version. The Chinese have a version. All of these things exist out there in the world. And I was starting to, just because of meeting my wife, watching her have a seizure, had changed my life in the direction that I was going down. And there's people around us that they don't like it. They don't like the fact that I pointed these things out. People that have epilepsy don't like the fact that they have epilepsy. There's a stigma to it. The family members of people that have epilepsy don't like it. My family and friends didn't like it because they didn't understand it, so they just thought we were doing drugs. Just doing drugs to do drugs and drinking, and that wasn't the case. I'll tell you right now, my wife doesn't drink anymore. I don't drink anymore. I've not drank for a while. I've tried helping people not drink, and people will argue that, and I really don't care. It's not, you don't like it, not my problem. And I'm not trying to be a dick to everybody. I'm just saying that this is where I've come to with life. After you die, and then the Hermetic text and the Book of the Dead, the Bible, all talk about this, what I'm talking about, and what I remember from it. And now that my memory's been kind of turned on and I can remember all these deaths throughout my life, it's something phenomenal. Now, how did I get to this point? Again, studying up on epilepsy, the pineal gland, the effects of DMT on the pineal gland. And we were on our way back from Washington, D.C. to see a neurologist to get a referral to Michigan, University of Michigan, or Michigan University, one of the two, to get into their program for the neurological and psychedelic studies on epilepsy. Yeah. And on the way back, we went through a county called Washington County in Pennsylvania. It might as well have been Erie. It might as well be Erie. I understand why those Goosebump books are written about in about the Pennsylvania area there. Nothing but strangeness. And I've got to go back to court there, so I'm going to post this, and hopefully everything will go okay afterwards. But I was in a car accident. We rolled a vehicle. Because of my wife's epilepsy, we have CBD oral applicators. They kind of look like this. And these were in the accident. And I don't have one. Which is silly because the officers at the officers in Kentucky, when I went down to see my aunt and uncle, they pulled it out and they're like, "We got a syringe." They did the same thing. "Got a syringe." And then I was like, "Dude, slow your roll. It's a CBD." And then he put it back in, and they didn't say anything. And those officers were nice. I've had, since the accident, a couple of, because I talk about this, I'll have run-ins today. I guarantee it. After I post this, I guarantee it. Anyway, we had rolled the vehicle. An officer had stated that there were syringes at the crash site, and at that point, I felt like I had crashed. I felt like we had crashed after crashing, if that makes any sense. My wife and I had done DMT a year and a half ago, and doing that, it did you have that experience, and I experienced being pulled from a car accident, and hearing them say, "Stay with me, Michael, stay with us, Michael, stay with us, Michael." I remember that. And then my wife had pulled me out of that experience. And in that, she had died. She had a seizure after that, like the next night, I think. And it was due to stress. There was the correlation between doing that and then the stress that caused a seizure. And then after, she was having seizures every time there was stress, every time. And then at the same time, is it the sun's frequency from having like solar flares that were popping off, CMEs that were popping off. And I was finding the correlation between strong days of the sun popping off to her seizures as well, her mental state as well. And then now, it's the same thing. These are all facts. I'm telling the truth. And we had, at that point, that was the whole trip to DC, to see some stuff, stay preoccupied. We went there and had some recreational marijuana and mushrooms earlier in that time, that week. And then it was the middle of the night. We had stopped at a truck stop. I had went in. I had talked to my son and her daughter. I talked to her son, or my son and her daughter, and then we fell asleep for a little bit. Now, here's where it gets strange. And I've not lost. This is it. This was before the accident. Before the accident, I had gotten in. I woke up, and as I woke up, it looked like a young man getting out of our vehicle. Now, again, you can think it's a dream. You can think it's because we had done some mushrooms earlier in the week, on like Monday or Tuesday. But this young man got out of the vehicle, stood next to her window, and I saw that it was the my son's mother, Jessica, overdosed and died on some drugs while I was in Maui. Now, my son's grandmother passed away just a little while ago, and I feel like because of her epilepsy and that pineal gland, that you can blink in and out. Other people can blink in and out, like it's a skin suit, like we're just skin suits. And I feel this kid was talking to her and then got back in the vehicle. Now, I also feel that it could be her brother. And I just have these strange, the strangeness of all of it is overwhelming. Because it happened. It happened. Now, after that, I didn't think anything of it, to be honest. It just seemed like it was happening, like it was supposed to happen. I pulled up to a pump at that point. This vehicle that had the kid and the old lady in it pulled over to where the semis parked. I pulled up to a pump. I went inside. Inside, there was a girl named Ashley. Ashley is the daughter of my sister, who had died from an overdose, a heroin overdose. The same as my son's mother. Now, that's 2 for 2 on overdoses. Now, I had tried for years to help both of them to get their stuff cleaned up and get their shit together, and it didn't work. They both died. And now I'm inside this truck stop. There's this girl named Ashley. For whatever reason, I said, your mother says hello. She's fine. And this girl starts crying. And now I'm like, okay. I go back to get a Red Bull. I got a V8 juice, an orange juice. I didn't want to get a Red Bull because my son had said, Dad, don't drive anymore tonight. And I didn't at that point. I had fell asleep for some few hours. And then as I'm standing there, a guy with a Grim Reaper tattoo on his forearm, little short guy, Grim Reaper tattoo on his arm, and I was like, holy shit, man. And that made me nervous. My instant gut feeling, go check on Julie. And I walked out, and I checked, and she wasn't in the front seat of our vehicle. Now, we've traveled thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of miles together, and we have a system that, she stays in the vehicle if I go in and the doors are locked, especially that time of the morning out in the middle of nowhere. And she looks up to see me. When I knock on a window, she does not just hit the unlock button. We have this worked out for tens of thousands of miles. Woof. Woof, woof. Let the big bad wolf in. Boy, did we.
It's a wolf and loaf.
Well, the
It's not
wolf
the
and loaf.
same.
Well, the wolf and loaf, you think.
Got eaten by the big bad wolf?
Yeah, something. Who knows? Nobody knows if this story's true or not. So, we had... once I had looked in the car and I didn't see her there, I went back out and I was kind of anxious. And then she was in the back seat for some reason. Again, tens of thousands of miles, never done this before. Never once. In the back seat. Seatbelt on. I go back in. I say, stay there.
Until later.
Huh?
No, I didn't put the seatbelt on until later.
Okay.
Second stuff.
Well, I go back in. I get my drinks. And I come back out. And get in, and I put in rest area. Now it takes us. I wanted to go to a lit rest area because this truck stop was sketchy. It wasn't very well lit, and I didn't like it. With seeing somebody walk away from our vehicle, I didn't care for it. And That's the feeling I was getting. Her getting into the back seat, this guy with a Grim Reaper tattoo on his arm, all of it. So at this point, I get in the vehicle, I drink the orange juice, we're driving. I'm following maps on her Waze, on her phone. Waze, not Google, Waze. Now, I get up to an exit, and we pull off, and it's a Wyndham. I was like, let's just stop here at this Wyndham. Now, she's telling me, no, we're not, just keep going. End up passing the rest area. And as I go to turn around, it takes us up this exit, and then the map changes. The blue line changes and just says, take a right. Now, I take this right. I take it. It goes down this back curvy road, and as we get back there, there's a red Bailey Bridge. It turns right into it. A red Bailey Bridge. Creepy as all get out. When I was in basic training, we built basic bridges. Now, who's calling me right now? Dylan is calling me right now. As I'm telling this story.
Are you live?
Yeah.
You're live?
Not live. Hey, what's up? A happy birthday, old fart. I'm getting into the really meat and bones of this map. Ways taking us the wrong direction to a Bailey Bridge, and all of a sudden you call and interrupt it. I'm still recording, by the way. Make you famous. Oh, it's not gonna make you famous. Well, I'm leaving it for the world to decide whether or not I'm telling the truth or is it just a spooky story. Listen to this shit.
Hey.
Listen to this.
Oh, no.
I'm pausing. I'm just gonna pause right now.